Cooney, and I suppose I spent more or less the last 40 years in the drinks industry. I started off life as an accountant. I became a management consultant. I really wanted to do something for myself. So in 1974, I went down to a little village in Borrisalee with 600 people and started off a business and turned out to be Gleeson. And over the years, Gleeson grew into quite a sizable company. So by the time we got to 2013, we had a turnover of 300 million, an employment of 750 million, 6 factories, 12 distribution depots around the country. Gleeson was our leading wholesaler, biggest wine importer. Like we were a second, third largest soft drinks producer. Tipperary Water was one of the brands. So we made cider, we made bottles for the whiskey industry. So we're involved in a lot of different things, including cream liqueur. But unfortunately, or not unfortunately, as a fact, the business was essentially based in the domestic economy. And I suppose everybody knows that 2009 came along and things got difficult, so we trimmed our costs and we cut a bit here and cut a bit there. And 2010 was more difficult. 2011 was even more difficult. In 2012, the wheels fell off. So I really began to realise that this business that I was in was essentially based in the domestic economy. So I thought maybe it's time. Everybody said it was too late, but I said maybe it's time for me to change slight direction. And the family were with me in the business at Gleeson's. So we decided to not leave the domestic economy, but to change focus. And with the business we had, we couldn't really change focus because we didn't really have exportable products. The only product we had that we were exporting was freeze pops, which was sent into Australia and all sorts of places, and cream liqueur. So cream liqueur was obviously in the drinks industry. Round about the same time, well, just to give you an idea, that was one of the factories that we had. That was a soft drinks plant. It was 400,000 square feet on 30 acres, so quite a sizable concern. That was only just one of them. So we decided to change direction and take a little focus away from the domestic economy and look for exports. Board Bia at this time was obviously doing quite a lot of research into the Irish food and drinks industry, and they identified really fantastic potential growth for the Irish food and drinks industry into the future. And I felt that maybe we might want to be part of this. When we sold Gleeson's in 2013 for an enterprise value of 65 million, we didn't sell it all. We kept some bits and pieces. Some of them was Mary's Cream Liqueur and the Adam Cider Company. Mary's Cream Liqueur is based in Clonmel, employs 45 people. 100% of its product is exported to 35 countries around the world. The cider company, we've got quite a sizable cider company. We've got 50 acres of our own orchards. And I think the acreage for bittersweet or cider apples in the country is about 150 acres, and we have 50 acres of them. So we're certainly in a very good position for the cider. So Board B was doing all this research, and they identified the Irish drinks industry as whiskey and white spirits, cream liqueur, craft cider, and craft beer. I was thinking, we already had the craft or the cream liqueurs and the cider, so it seemed quite logical maybe we might look at whiskey and craft beer. So we wanted to make a presence, or have a presence in the 4 pillars of the Irish drinks industry, at least. That was the plan. So where do we start? So we decided to look for the premises and a vision of having an old mill beside a river with a big mill wheel turning and all that wonderful stuff. So we actually went looking for an old mill. I already decided that I wanted to have it in the Boyne Valley for a number of reasons, which I'll touch on later. But there wasn't that many old mills along the Boyne Valley, at least I couldn't find one. So we actually bought a building in Navan. It was the old Spices Bakery. It was a very old mill. And I was going to put a distillery in there. It was quite small, so it was quite difficult. So this was in receivership. So while the receiver was trying to make up his mind, I kept process the title. We came across another building in Drogheda. And we saw this building and we said, that's it. So in Gleeson's, there was 4 of the family with me. My wife was public relations. Sally Ann, who now is the project manager for the Visitor Centre. Peter is export sales manager. And Patrick is domestic sales. And James Cooney, that's my youngest son, he's the accountant. So and that's actually the family. Might look a little bit like the mafia, but anyway. It wasn't my idea of a family photograph. Someone else chose it for the brochure. But anyway, that's the family. And we have this group called Nakuna. And Nakuna obviously is Gaelic for the Cooneys. So this is very much that Cooney's enterprise. And the Cooney's enterprise consists of, down at the bottom is Mary's, which is the cream liqueur, Adams's, which is the cider. Boan, which is the distillery, and Boyne Brewhouse, which is the brewery. So one of the reasons why I wanted to settle along the Boyne Valley was because it's probably the most famous mythological heritage river or location in not alone in Ireland, but possibly even in Europe. You know, it's got great stories, it's got Trim, it's got Newgrange, the oldest building in the world, it's got Melifont, it's got Monster Boyce, it's got the Battle of the Boyne, it's got Drogheda, which is a medieval town, and lots of stories in between. So we really wanted to settle into the Boyne Valley. So a pal of mine who had a little bit of misfortune rang me up this day, and he said, Paddy says, I've had a bit of misfortune. He says, I'd like to rent your warehouse in Drogheda. I had another warehouse in Drogheda. So we came over and we did a deal, and when we were talking away, I was telling him what I was thinking of doing. He says, you should go and look at my place. He said, it's really good, and he says, it's in receivership, and he says, it can be bought very cheap. Actually, it turned out Toyota was trying to buy it as well, so we didn't buy it as cheaply as I thought, but anyway, we bought it for a finish. And it's located in Drogheda, in the gateway to the Boyne Valley, and you can see the Boyne Valley is pretty important. Mary's is in Clonmel, Adams is in Borrisoleigh, and the Boyne Brewhouse and the Boyne Distillery is in Drogheda, with all the history and heritage of it. So this building was actually a car show sales room. It was a product of the Celtic Tiger, 50,000 square feet, and all glass. That's just the front of it. So the other side of it is all glass as well. It's glue lam, so no steel, it's all timber. So when we started this building, we said, Jesus, you know, this is it. And in fact, if we actually started to design something for what we wanted, it probably would have wound up something like this. So it's 50,000 square feet. We're adding on another 50,000 square feet, and that actually is the basis of the plan. If you look at the M1, just to give you an idea of the location, this is the M1 here. Oh yeah, there we are. So that's the M1, that's the roundabout, and that's the building there, that white building there. With the adjoining side beside it, that's our building, our warehouse, and all that kind of thing. It's in Drogheda, it's 200 metres off the M1, it's 20 minutes from the airport. The Boyne Valley gets 1.4 million visitors a year, Newgrange gets over 500,000, and we think we're going to get more than 100,000 visitors a year into these premises here. We know all the heritage of the Boyne, it's Monster Boyce, it's the Battle of the Boyne, it's Tara, Trim, Newgrange, like real history. And of course Drogheda itself is a medieval fortified town, so lots of attractions. We hope to, or we are going to revive brewing. The last brewery in Drogheda was Cairns' Brewery, and a product was called Cairns' Stingo. Cairns' Stingo Stout, great name I think. And quite famous, they were quite big, and they exported to the States and some other markets. So we've registered the name Cairns, and we hope to revive the name Cairns in one or other of our brands that we're going to do in the brewery. Drogheda also boasted a distillery, which closed down in the 60s. So we'll be the first people to do or revive distilling in Drogheda in 50 or 60 years. And I've also registered Preston's as a name. This is an artist's impression of the distillery. So you can see that there's glass all along the front of the 3-pot stills, and the brewery is down the other side of the glass, and that's the main road into Drogheda. So it's the heart of the Boyne Valley. It's quite unique insofar as that it's a working distillery and a brewery. There's none in Ireland. I don't think there's any in England. I think there might be 2 in the States, but that's about it. So quite unusual that you would have a brewery and a distillery in the same building. The whiskey maturation cellar is also in the same building. Strange enough, this particular car show sales room had a cellar, quite a big cellar. Don't know what you wanted the cellar for, but we had a big cellar, absolutely perfect for maturing our whiskey. So we'll actually mature all our whiskey there. We have a room for 7,500 barrels. We intend to bring a still room, which will be a bar, 120-seater restaurant, a whiskey stove with a fire, and nice study furniture. We'll have a beer tap room, and up here on top of this, the far building, which is designed on the basis of an Irish tower house, we're going to have a botanical roof garden. We're going to do distillery tours and brewery tours. We also have conference facilities, with all the mod cons for conference facilities. We have a shop which is going to obviously sell some of our own wares, but also sell a lot of the products of the Boyne Valley, because it's a very rich food producers group in the Boyne Valley. So we're going to sell a lot of Irish products. We have 150 car parking spaces and 5 coach spaces. So all in all, we think it's a pretty unique project, and certainly Board Fáilte is really really excited about it, because it's something that can add to their exercise of trying to market the Boyne Valley and the new, what they call it, the historic way, which is on the east coast. So that's the building on the left. The building, that's our brew house. We have a 25 hectolitre Casper Schultz brew house with a 3-to-1 ratio of conditioning against fermenting, which is pretty good, so we should be able to make really good beers. It's a really good piece of kit. We also have a fantastic brewer, which I'll be coming to in a few minutes. And that actually is our Loughton Tun getting in for the distillery. Our distillers haven't arrived yet, but they're in Italy and they're on the way. We call it the distillery of Boyne because the goddess Boyne created Boyne River, and it's going to help us tap into that whole mythology piece. The brewery is going to be called the Boyne Brew House, so two sides of the same coin. The distillery is traditional tree still, pot still distillery. We're actually cooperating with a local farmer in Cooney who's actually growing the grain, getting it malted, and he's going to be a supplier for grain for the distillery and also for the brewery. So we want to have this grain to glass concept. We want a good eco credentials, and to help us do all of that, we've engaged John McDougall, who did a great job, I think, with Dingle. So John is a consultant distiller, who, with our resident distiller, is going to develop our recipes in distills. He's 55 years experience. He worked in the Scottish whisky industry in every region. He also was a gin distiller with Plymouth Gin. He was involved in 37 distilleries, and he's our head distiller and brewer, and Anya is our head distiller and brewer, which I'll talk about later. That's Loughlin's farm in Cooney that we're cooperating with quite a bit. We want to really develop a very close relationship with them, so as to be control the quality of the grain, and that we know exactly where it's coming from. That's our stills, maybe quite a little bit disassembled, but at least they're made, and we'll have them in about 2 weeks' time. The brewery has about potential for about 150,000 litres of pure alcohol a year, but if we really want to push it hard, we can put it up to 500,000 litres of pure alcohol. If we can sell all of that, I'll be a happy man. So it's a 10,000 litre wash still, 7,500 litre intermediate, and a 5,000 litre spirit still. We're also putting in a Bennett still, so we want to develop some gins. So we want to develop an Irish hedgerow gin based on some local botanicals, and we've got some interesting names for the gin, and we might even look at doing a high-end vodka. But really we want to do some apple brandy or Calvados as well, because of connections with the cider. So the other important piece of this exercise is the visitor piece. So as I mentioned earlier, we're putting onto this building a reception area that is based on an old Irish tower house. So it's going to have a sunken fireplace, quite a big fireplace that will burn logs. It'll be 1.5 metres under the ground, and there'll be a 3-tier seating experience around it. The team of it's been done with an award-winning architect, actually Clancy Moore, who's building one of the best buildings in the world in 2013. So we're quite excited about this. And the theme of the distillery is going to be the spoken word, because spoken word is kind of a lost art. So we want to bring it back. We want to bring Shannos back. We want to bring Shanachie back. We want to bring real theatre, a live theatre back. So we have a real host of things that we really want to do here. One of the other things we want to do is, of course, because we're in a proper kitchen, we're going to have a fine dining experience. On the second floor of this is going to be a conference facilities, but also a fine dining area. And on the top floor then is going to be a roof garden. So we want to have resident chefs cooking great food with our beers, and we want to have resident or guest brewers brewing great beer to go with our food. So we want to go from both ends. So we want to bring something of interest in the whole thing, and we want this to be a destination venue for not alone for tourists, but for local people within maybe a 30-40 mile radius, just because of the location of the distillery and brewery. So we're doing distillery tours and tastings, obviously, and it'll be quite unique insofar as that we designed it in such a way that we'll be able to bring everybody right around the distillery, from the mill house, through to the mashing and the milling, through to the fermenting, through to the distilling, through to actually putting in the barrels, all in one single tour, looking at the fermenting, or looking at the maturing barrels in the cellar, all that sort of thing. It's going to be history and ingredients, so usual stuff, but we're also doing gin, and then we're going to have a number of tastings for our other products like cider, our beers, and our Irish cream liqueur. That's our maturation cellar, it's quite a big one. So we've over 7,500 barrels of maturation space. The tasting will be whiskey, gin, Irish green liqueur, beer and cider, and we're going to do hopefully a lot of special events. So the idea is that obviously because of our previous history in the wine industry, we've access to sherry casks, we've access to port casks, we've access to wine casks. Through another association, we've access to rum casks, and we just formed an agreement with Brown-Forman, Jack Daniels, that they're going to give us their first-class casks, their first-class bourbon casks. So we have our casks very well sorted, and that's a very important part of the whole distillery piece. We're going to do, actually introducing it to our stills. One of the reasons why we went to green in Italy, they've got this new, I think it's relatively new technology called nanotechnology. So it's part of the line arm is modified so that the whiskey or the distillation of the distillate will get exposure to 6 times the copper that would ordinarily in a standard, let's say, Scottish still. So we hope to introduce some of that new technology into making the different styles of whiskey from the same sets of stills. So we want to make Irish Premium Blended. That's launched in a couple of months' time. For that we bought some Cooney whiskey and from a few other places, just to dip our toe in the water. Obviously we want to make pot still blend, and we want to make a single malt. We want to make single grain, and we want to make pot still. So we want to cover all of the categories of the Irish whiskey industry. And we believe that these stills will enable us to do that. That's our first dip of toe in the whiskey. It's called a Whistler. It came about one Christmas Eve. I whistle and my son whistles, and it kind of goes along with the spoken word because it's kind of a lost art. You don't really hear people whistling anymore. People don't really recite poetry or listen to poetry, read poetry. So it's all part of the same team that we want to revive all of these lost arts of what used to be very common in Ireland. Then the whiskey stoned. I'm fond of this myself because I've been drinking whiskey all my life. So we've got this really good concept for whiskey stone. It's going to be quite warm. It's going to be panelled. It's going to have a fireplace. It's going to have leather stone furniture. The kind of place where you want to sit down and enjoy your whiskey. And we hope to stock the bar with more than 100 whiskies from around the world. We want people to come along, sit down. We want to educate them into whiskey. We want them to sit down and enjoy whiskey. We want them to listen to stories, tell stories, have conversation. And needless to say, there won't be any television in this bar. So one of the things, obviously, finance. I suppose when we looked at this particular project, there's a couple of problems with going into a distillery. Number one is making it, but in some ways it's the easiest place to make it. Number two is financing it, which is a little bit harder. And this is very much a family affair. There's no outside shareholders or anything like that. So we can finance it, but selling it, I think that's a really hard and difficult piece. And I suppose I'm not going to give anybody advice here today, but if anybody is thinking of going into the whiskey business, think very much about the last piece, because I think it's really, really difficult. I think we possibly have an advantage insofar as that we've 25 export countries already, we've 25 agents. America is our biggest market. Our agent in the States is the 5th largest importer of wines and spirits into the States. So we actually have a pathway that we can see access for our products into these markets. But if you don't have access, that is really a difficult piece. And I would just caution, because you can spend a lot of money and then not be able to sell your product, or even get distribution for your product. And whiskey is an expensive business. So as a little exercise, we decided what we're going to do. We've got this wonderful distillery in Drogheda, and we would like everybody to be able to participate in some way with it. So Dingle, I think, I don't know if you still know, but I think they set the pattern really in selling barrels of whiskey, a limited edition of barrels of whiskey. So we've set aside 500 barrels of whiskey, and that's it. There'll be only 500 barrels. So the people who decide to buy it, they're not cheap, but the people who decide to buy a barrel of whiskey, they can come along, you can be there when this whiskey is being distilled, you can see the grain being milled, they go through the whole process, you can see his whiskey going into his barrel, we'll put his name on it, we'll put it in the cellar, we'll mature it in bourbon or sherry or port, whichever he wants for the first 3 years. He'll come along to we'll give him annual tastings out of the barrel. He can talk to a distiller, he can come along and look at it, he can have a party with his friends, he can have a party in the wine cellar, or in the whiskey cellar. I think it's a decision. What's he going to do with it? Is he going to blend it? Is he going to age it? Is he going to bottle some of it? If he's going to blend it, what's he going to blend it with? If he's going to put it into a different barrel, what kind of barrel he's going to put it into? Because we have access to Madeira, we have access to Port Simonese, we have access to rum. Like, there's a whole range of barrels, each of which will give his whiskey a very particular finish. And you put into that then the options of blending and mixing, aging and bottling. Like, the options are just limitless. So in every sense, if you buy a barrel of whiskey, this will be your whiskey. Nobody else will have it. We'll put your name on it, you bring your wife down on your anniversary and have your photograph taken in front of it. A good investment for kids, you know. Go last for 20 years, 20 years, doesn't matter. We put it in the cellar, small charge. Interesting project. It's real lifestyle investment. And for anyone who's serious, I'll probably run a few brochures. Anyway, that's the idea of our cask whiskey. I'm actually looking at the possibilities of having this done on an EIS scheme, which will make it a really interesting investment. Anyway, just a bit of fresh thinking, I think. Rod's putting a little Bennett still, and we're essentially, hopefully, going to make a really fantastic Irish hedgerow gin. So we're going to use local botanicals from the Boyne Valley and essentially Irish botanicals. So I think we're going to give it our own twist, and we're going to be very distinctive. We're calling it Silks, because not alone has the Boyne Valley got real heritage and mythology attached to it, but just 3 miles up the road is Ballystown Racecourse, which is the oldest racecourse held under rules at the same venue in the world. So, another bit of association that we want to tap into. So, and of course, gin is very well associated with the horsey settle and all of that, and the jockeys wear silks. So then we'll go on to probably do our own tonic, because soft drinks was my life before, and so suggested we call the tonic the jockey. So we did a silks and jockey. Irish cream liqueur then, fantastic product. This has won more gold medals than any other Irish cream liqueur. Like it's won, I think it's like 110 medals of one sort or another everywhere. It's a really great product, great presentation. We've got a really first-class food technologist. We've just been opening a line down here, a whole new automated line, 8,000 bottles an hour. So a really good product. We're the first people, I think, to do flavoured cream liqueurs. So fantastic company and fantastic product, 100% export. Boyne Brewhouse, and so again we're tapping into the local mythology. So our APA, it's not an IPA, it's an APA, it's Australian Pale Ale, not Indian Pale Ale. That's because our brewer learned our trade in Australia. And born in the day, again is tapping into the local mythology. Dagda had an illicit affair with Boann, was married to the High King. They had a baby, and he didn't want anyone to know it was his baby, so he stopped the sun for 9 months. The baby was born the next day, so nobody knew it was his baby. So it's all those stories, there's hundreds of them, and we want to tap into them. So we thought Born in the Day was a good name for APA. The brewhouse, very good. It's a Casper Schultz. We hope to brew it in 2 weeks' time. It's 25 hectolitre, but in addition to putting this in, we're also putting in a fully automated bottling line, and a canning line, and a kegging line. And in order to give us every option, because I think this is the next step for Irish craft brewing, to give us every option for the retail end of the business, because again, you have to sell the product. And we don't want to sell our product just locally, we want to sell it everywhere. We expect at least 50% of our beer production to be exported. We expect 50% of our cider production to be exported. So on the bottling line, we put in sleeving, that's the plastic sleeve that does the whole bottle. We put in multi-packing, we put in carton erecting, we put in shrink wrapping. So this is to give us every option for the retail packs. So we can do 4 packs, 8 packs, 12 packs, whatever you have in yourself. And really important part to do, we put 50 kegging line in as well, that's actually in. Then the idea is for the visitor piece. We have a whole central spine of the distillery and brewery. So the brewery is one side, the distillery is the other. So we'll go to these tasty islands. And in that we'll be able to taste, or the visitor will be able to taste our cream liqueurs, our gins, our whiskies, our ciders, our beers, and afterwards hopefully be able to buy them in the shop. And also it's very educational, because we really want to educate people in how to make beer, in the art of making beer, what makes craft beers different, why is it different, why are they so popular, all of that. And we have a very personable brewer, Anya, she's here in the audience, good looking photograph. And Anya is a biochemist by primary degree, but she got a first class honours at Harry Watt. And then she went to Australia, where she was head brewer at Tilda Bay, which is the biggest, I think was the biggest craft brewery in Australia, quite famous. And then she served some time, because it was all part of the same group, and then it was taken over by Sam Miller. So she served some time in the big breweries as well. So very talented, very experienced girl. Not only is she going to be a brewer, but she's going to be our head distiller as well. So not depending on all the very personal. So she's really a big part of the PR machine as well for the whole project. So these are labels. So again, in order to give our beers the very best possible chance, both in the domestic market, the export market, we've gone for the Boss bottle. We've gone for no-look labels. And we've gone for a pretty sophisticated labeler that is able to do all of these things. It's got spotting, so the label will be on every time. It's got automatic reels. We're going for laser coding. So I'm really trying to put in all of the things that the big breweries have into a craft brewery. So just to give us every opportunity to be successful in the market. There's some of the brands. All brewed for original recipes. So just gallop on here, it's all the same story. We're starting off with some, so it's Australian Pale Ale, Dortmund export style beer, sparkling copper ale, honey beer, oyster stout from Carlingford, and then we're going to do a number of seasonals. I want to do a bottle fermented stout, so we've 20 beers we probably want to do. So it's going to be an exciting time. Peter's playing ginger beer, so we're going to have some fun. So the bottling line is fully automated depalletizing, automated palletizing, 8,000 bottles an hour, 500ml, 330, 355, 568. We also want to do 750 high gravity beers for food, because we see real potential, at least we think there's real potential to take some of the wine market away with good beer. So these will be about 8% ABV, and they will be styled to go with beer, and it's all part of what we want to do in the facility. That we want guest chefs to come along. Because of our previous experience, we used to sponsor the Irish Restaurant Association for years, so we know all the key chefs. So we think we can get them to come along to cook. We'll provide the beer, and then we want to get some guest brewers to come along. They provide the beer, we provide the food. So we're going to do a lot of that kind of mixing and matching in the restaurant. We're trying to introduce a few novelties as well. So one of the latest things these days is a 360 lid. So in other words, we take the lid off a can, we're putting in a can, because in the States the fastest growing part of the craft beer market is actually cans. And technically a can is the best medium to put beer into. It's better than glass, much better than PET, but better than glass. It really is recognised as the best medium. So we put in a 12,000 can an hour automated canning line specifically for this. But we also want to introduce some innovations. So one of the first things we want to do is the 360 lid. The idea being that when you take the lid off, it actually becomes a glass. So we're going to call it the glass can. And we're the first people in Europe to do this. Fully automated 60 kegs an hour, 20 or 50 litre kegs. And we also want to do key kegs for export.